of volunteers evacuating from active war zones. We also ask that you continue to pray for protection, wisdom, and discernment of Ukrainian president, leadership, and authorities. Pray for churches and pastors as they provide food, shelter, clothing, and counseling. And most of all, for the church to be strengthened and united in faith as they share good news of Jesus Christ. We are facing overwhelming challenges, and all manner of support is needed. Please support these relief efforts financially and give using the link below. We partner with local pastors and churches in Ukraine as they provide transportation for those escaping from war zones and shelter, food, clothing, and medical attention to all in need. Thank you for contributing to this dire situation and sharing what you have. Such a sacrifice is always pleasing to God. Your compassion and care is a true demonstration of your love for the Lord here on earth. May the Lord help us to be His hands in time of need. Sinking, you may think, what can I do? I cannot stop that satanic or satanic sinking, satanic attacking. But we also could look at this and see, I have a little rescue boat. What can I do? Maybe I can save one person. Maybe I can put 5 people. Maybe I can do 15 trips. And this is what we're doing. We're just helping this world or changing the world by saving one person at a time. So I want to just encourage us not to look, what can I do globally? And globally we are limited. We don't have a voice, we don't have power. But each one of us, when we unite together, we could do things with the help of God. You know, when we look at this situation, it's not clear. It's dimly. It's not certain. And we're so confused. There's so many uncertainties. And Apostle Paul says, when we look at and think, it's not clear to us. It seems dimly. And then in verse 13, chapter 13 of 1 Corinthians, he says, and now there are 3 things that remain: faith, abiding trust in God and His promises, hope, confident expectation of eternal salvation, and love, unselfish love for others, growing out of God's love for me. These 3, the choicest graces, the greatest of these is love. And the fact that you are here present, the fact that you support, it shows your love in action. And truly thank you for your demonstration and showing the God's love to His people, the suffering people. You know, we have been, and she's an American-born child. She's not Ukrainian. She went to Ukraine with her parents as a missionary and learned Ukrainian language, speaks fluently Ukrainian. And since 2014, and her heart was to support Ukraine, and she went to the front lines, and she was singing and encouraging soldiers who were defending Ukraine. And it's truly a blessing and an honor to have her with us. And without further ado, I would like to welcome Bria Blessing, and let she will be continue to bless us, and the Lord use her. Amen.
Oh, now you can hear me. Okay, that's good. Thank you, Pastor Ivan. It's really my honor to be here and to partner with the Ukrainian community here. Have I ever, this is a really ridiculous question, and it just shows how old and forgetful I am. Have I ever been to this church before? No, I haven't. Okay. Because I walked in, I was like, it kind of looks familiar, but I'm not sure. And so often, like even this evening, there was a gentleman who came up to me and he was like, Bria, good to see you again. And I'm like, nice to meet you. And then I'm like, oh wait, we've met, haven't we? So it's really embarrassing sometimes, but I'm glad that It's not just my memory. I haven't been here before, but it's really an honor to be here. I wish it was under different circumstances. I wish, you know what, let's just plan that when this is all over, we have a victory party. And we gather in celebration instead of a benefit concert. So we're gonna try to real quick figure out the kind of sound setup. My husband and I left Buffalo, where we live, at 6 o'clock this morning, and literally just got here before this started. So we didn't have time really to like set anything up or try anything. So whatever happens is gonna happen. I make no promises as to the quality of this performance. Almost 30 years from the time I was 13 is when my family moved there. And I moved there knowing nothing about Ukraine, not the language. I'd never tried Ukrainian food before. Is there anyone here who has never tried Ukrainian food before? I hope that you get a chance, because you're in for a treat, especially if you ever get to try vareniki. It's my favorite. Oh my gosh, it's so good. So vareniki, you probably know them as pierogies, but we know them as vareniki. They're 100% Ukrainian. They were invented in Ukraine. Правда, українців?
Так.
Okay, yes they were, amen. And this song is one of the songs that made me fall in love with Ukrainian music. It was the first song that, is the guitar mic on? Is this mic on? No? Formed in front of Ukraine on a global scale. One of the crazy moments of my story was that, it's a long story, God randomly took this missionary girl from Texas on The Voice Ukraine, which was not in the plan, but when they asked me to come on The Voice, I thought, you know what, I'm in Ukraine, I don't want to, and this is the song that I sang, and this is sort of how me and the country of Ukraine met, if you will. Я піду в далекі горі, на широкі полонини, прошу вітру з волі, аби він не спав до днини, щоб злетів на вільних крилах на печері, і в ті брови, і дізнався, де моя мила карі очі, чорні брови, мила моя, люба моя, світи ясен світ. Я несу в очах до тебе весь блакитний світ. Я несу любов за журу, мрію молоду, і сади цвітуть за мене, я до тебе йду. А як вітер сполонений, полетіти не захоче, все одно знайду дівчину, чорні брови, карі очі, правду я стріки і без біди діброви, і шляхи мені покажуть карі очі, чорні брови, мила моя. Dumo moja, świtej jasен świt. Śpiewajmy ze mną. Ja nesu oczach do Tebe wejść, na piękny świt. Ja nesu любов zażuru, mimo dróg. I sady cwituć na mnie, jak do Tebe idą. Most handsome man in the whole world. And I just happened to get to marry him. My husband, Jesse Pulley. I know this is a little bit unconventional, but I'm actually going to sit while I sing this because they're going to show a video, and I want y'all to be able to just focus on the video. So I'm just going to get out of the way. So this song, what I wrote it. This was my very first song that I ever wrote in Ukrainian. It's one thing to learn how to speak Ukrainian, how to speak a different language, but it's a completely different thing to write music or poetry in a language that's not your native language. So for years, since we moved to Ukraine in 1993 until 2014, I had tried to write songs in Ukrainian and it just had never worked, and I just figured I'm never going to be able to do that. And then in 2014, Russia invaded Ukraine for the first time in this war. This war has actually been going on for 8 years, not 34 days or whatever we're on. So as someone, even though I have a different passport than Ukrainians, Ukraine was my home. It was my land from the time I was 13. It was my people. And when Russia invaded, it was just like such a deep pain, and kind of like Pastor Yvonne was saying, I didn't know what to do. Obviously, I wanted to just go pick up a gun and get them all out of Ukraine, but I knew that was not possible and I would just die if I tried to do that. So I was like, well, that's not going to be very effective. But two pastors who had happened to see me, coincidentally, we all know that with God, there are no coincidences, who happened to see me on The Voice, called me and said, Bria, we're going to start visiting the soldiers, the Ukrainian soldiers on the front lines, taking them food, taking them supplies, taking them Bibles, trying to encourage them. Will you go with us? Will you bring your weapon, your guitar, and will you go with us and do what you do best and encourage their spirits? And I was like, yeah, absolutely. But I had no idea what to expect. I'd never been on the front lines of a war before. And when we say front lines, I mean, I'm not exaggerating, like these pastors. When I got back from the first trip, my mom was not very happy to see my pictures and hear my stories. She was like, I thought you meant that you were gonna be like at a base kind of back where they rest. She was like, I'm showing her videos where there's things exploding around us and gunshots being fired, and she was like, I don't know if I want you to do this anymore. But going there the first time, I was like, God, what am I gonna say to these men? I've never fought in a war before. They're seeing death before their eyes every day. They're facing death every moment. I'm thinking they're all gonna be like depressed, and I have no idea how I'm going to encourage them. And it was completely the opposite of what I thought it was gonna be. The soldiers were so jovial, if you will. They were just making jokes and laughing, and they were, when we would come to one of their positions, they would obviously take us into a more safe area, and they would want to like cook for us, and they hardly had anything, but they would want to like make us tea and give us the last cookies they had, and it was just incredible. And I went home and something just switched in my brain, and this song came out that's called "We Are Ukraine." And I don't know what passport you hold in this room here tonight. I don't know where you were born. But I can tell you, as someone who lived in Ukraine for 30 years, I think I speak for every Ukrainian in this room. Even if you are not Ukrainian, together here, we are all Ukraine, because we're standing with them shoulder to shoulder. We're holding their arms up as they fight, doing what we can to support them. You are Ukraine, and we want to thank you so much for your support. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Oh, we're gonna have to start again.
Okay, do it again.
Okay.
1, 2, 3, 4. Всі чорні птахи злетіли з низки, закрили нам сонце і світлі дні. Але наші летять, не страху нема, ще трохи розійдеться пітьма. І знаєм ми, це синьо-жовта земля, єдина наша країна, в нас є спільне майбуття, так Україна жива, священник всі заспівають, разом ми Україна. Ой, мамо, мамо, не плач, за мене молись, підтримуй любов'ю ти мене, і в серці завжди з тобою я є, і в серці моєму будеш ти. І пам'ятай, це синьо-жовта земля, єдина наша країна, в нас є спільне майбуття, так Україна жива, священник всі заспівають, разом ми Україна. Небесний наш ти Отець, хай прийде царство Твоє, хай буде воля Твоя, Тобі вся слава Твоя. Благаєм Ти бережи наших сестер і братів, тримай у своїх руках, святиться Твоє ім'я. Небесний наш ти Отець, хай прийде царство Твоє, хай буде воля Твоя, Тобі вся слава й хвала. Благаєм Ти бережи наших сестер і братів, тримай у своїх руках, святиться Твоє ім'я. Це синьо-жовта земля, єдина наша країна, в нас є спільне майбуття. wrap up this little section of our little bit. But I wanted to end on a song in English because I'm not sure what language everyone speaks here, and so that way we'll have a song in English for the English speakers. This is a song that I wrote not too long ago, and a friend in Buffalo, actually, one day we went out in the freezing weather. He found a location, and we filmed a lyric video really quickly, and I released it on my YouTube channel. So there's a Ukrainian version and an English version. It's called Peace Be Still, or Mir в тобі in Ukrainian. And I don't make a ton of revenue off of my YouTube channel. It's not like a huge channel or anything, but anything that these two videos do make, so every time someone views it, comments on it, it generates revenue when you watch the ads with the video, and anything that these videos make will go to Ukraine. So check those out and share them. You don't have to like them, just like let the commercials play, and so that it like brings in money and we can send that to Ukraine. But this song is just, I was thinking of the story of Jesus and his friends when they were in a boat on the sea, and a storm came in, and there were huge waves. It's not like a little lake, it was like a huge sea. And the waves were rocking the boat, about to tip the boat over, and I take that back. Jesus was actually not on the boat. No, he was on the boat. There's two different boat stories. This one, he was in the boat. I'm getting my Bible stories.
You're doing great, honey.
Thanks. My husband is like has a seminary degree, so he's probably like facepalm. So this story, Jesus is in the boat. He's sleeping, and his disciples are petrified. They think they're about to die. And they go and wake him up. And in typical Jesus fashion, he's like, "What's the big deal?" And they're like, "We're literally about to die. Maybe you didn't notice, the boat's about to tip over." But he lived in his physical body, but his spirit, his mind, was always in the presence of Father God. So he could be in the worst storm or in the worst war, and his spirit was at peace because he knew even if he died, there's nothing to be afraid of. He's going to be with his Father. But he had compassion on his friends who maybe weren't as strong as he was, who were afraid. And so he got up and he just said 3 little words to the storm. He just said, "Peace, be still." And everything went peaceful. So that's my prayer for Ukraine. I should say more for Russia, that Christ would say, "Peace, be still," and send them home, that he would speak peace over the country of Ukraine. They would be able to live peacefully in their homes with no fear. But even not being in Ukraine, we all have our own storms. We all have the things that inside we're completely terrified of. If you know Jesus, there is no reason to be terrified. If you don't know Jesus, I'm just telling you, as a simple girl from Texas who grew up in Ukraine, it was a really weird story. But I've been through a lot of storms in my life. And I know personally Christ as the source of deepest peace, where there is no fear of what's going to happen, because you know He's holding you and He's holding everything. And even when you don't understand, you know He loved you so much that He died for you. So you can trust Him. Even on the hard days, the best place is just going to Jesus and allowing Him to say, peace, be still, over your life and in your heart. There are days when I could stand and sing, pour out my love on you, my King. Times when I could shout and lift my hand in worship. But today my soul is lost for words, and all I know to do, run into the arms of the one who loves me. Just sit with you. Peace, be still. There are days the storms inside of me, and faith is hard when all I see are waves that crash above my head and drown out my worship. So for this moment here, I close my eyes, it's all I know to do. And focus on I am and all you are, God. Just sit with you. Peace, be still when I am surrounded. Peace, be still when I'm overwhelmed. Oh, peace, be still. Christ before, beside me. Peace, be still. Christ within, around me. Command the waves and then listen. The storm is peace from your hands. With just a word from your lips, oh, creation still tender. Was I not formed in your image? Set free, filled with the Spirit. You speak the word and the chaos disappears. And my thoughts are clear. And I know what I need to do now is just sit with you. Peace, be still when I am surrounded. Peace, be still when I'm overwhelmed. Oh, please be still. Christ within, beside me. Peace, be still. Christ within, around me. Thank you all so much for giving me your attention tonight. Thank you so much for, thank you.
живу, завтра життя нема. Сьогодні я живу, радію і плачу, і зараз в голову йдуть різні думки про це життя земне, яке проходить, приносить часом розпач, часом біль. Якщо у тебе добрий час сьогодні, у тебе затишок, у тебе є свій дім, коли сім'я разом просто щасливі, дитячий у дворі лунає сміх, коли у тебе є достаток хліба, коли є спокій, радість на душі, твої батьки тебе благословляють і щиро посміхаються тобі. Отак собі живеш, щаслива з Богом, і розумієш, що веде його рука. Любов Ісуса огортає землю, і ти не хочеш бачити в ній зла. Та раптом зло прийшло в мою країну, вночі почула, що прийшла війна. Вона мені стрілою серце проколола, і зупинити сльози не змогла. До Господа ридала: Боже, справді, ти допустив цей жах в моїм краю. Для чого це? Дай зрозуміти, батьку, і прошу, збережи людей, мою рідню. У більшості, напевне, було також великий шок, ридання, навіть страх. О, українці, тяжко це приймати, та ворог хоче знищити наш край. Оця війна, яка все сколихнула і мою душу болем огорнула, не може розум мій усе вмістити, яка ненависть тут живе у світі. Проходять дні, вже тижні не вщухає, а сатана лютує і трощить все. Руйнує він міста, і гинуть люди, і плач людей розтоплює серця. А я до Бога запитання маю: для чого це? Там діти є твої, які у тебе милості благають. Невже ти їх не чуєш? Ну скажи. І тут невдовзі відповідь приходить: у серце мир, і спокій, і слова. Я їх люблю, люблю я Україну. Я хочу їх спасти. Така ціна, така є моя воля і мій задум, і треба зупинити всякий гріх. Ціна заплачена велика моїм сином за кожного, хто хоче жити з ним. О, церкво моя, ниви пожовтіли, роботи було, стало більше ще. Працівники, в оділ свій треба встати, бо цінною для мене є людська душа. Тому ви підкріпіться моїм словом, у ньому я усе це говорив, і жодна йота з нього не пропаде. Не падай духом, світ я переміг. Не плач, моє дитя, бо я з тобою, я не залишу, не покину я. Довір своє життя мені одному, ти добре знаєш, все в моїх руках. І віра в моє серце поселилась, розквітне край мій, оживе земля, воскресне моя рідна Україна, і з Господом буде завжди вона. О, Україно, земле моя рідна, ти зацвітеш, засяєш на весь світ, піднімешся з колін, моя країно, прославиш Бога, що тобі поміг. Це був мій біль і моє переживання. І я хотіла з вами поділитися. Хай вас Бог благословить.
It was good. When this whole situation in the Ukraine happened, people gathered together. You know, when we see it in society, we see sometimes we witness the worst of man, of how man can be. But at the same time, we can also witness the best of man, how man is to overcome. So we are now witnessing what the best that we can do as a society. And when the U.S. started the humanitarian aid to Ukraine, and when New Jersey was taken apart, my staff and my office was saying, Assemblyman, we need to do something. We need to do a drive to, get some aid to Ukraine. And in my heart, I was like, yes, I want to do it, but in my heart, I was like, if I do something, I want to make sure it gets to the right people. It gets to the people it needs to get to. So one of the things that was troubling my heart was I need to be 100% sure that if we're going to start a drive, that this is going to get to the people of Ukraine. And one night I was sharing this with my brother, one of the board members, Joji Valiant. I was telling him this. I said, hey, look, I'm planning to do this drive, and I need to know, to get connected to someone who might be able to get us, make sure that it gets to the right people. And he said, I have the right person. Come right, let's go and talk to Alex. He introduced me to Alex. He said, Alex was telling me about the drive. And of course, at first I was really skeptical. I asked him a lot of questions. I said, where's it going? How's it going? Tell me the route. And he said, I know the mayor of Rivne. I said, how do you know the mayor of Rivne? I asked him a lot of questions to make sure. And then in my heart, when I knew that this was the way, we need to proceed, my office and Alex, we started talking and developing the ads and everything. And while this was going on, I asked Alex, how well do you know the mayor? Because I have an idea. I said, how about we keep this going beyond this humanitarian aid? What happens if we can, have a relationship with the people of Rivne and how we can, collaborate together? And I said, there's a concept called sister cities, where one city adopts the other city and vice versa, and they help each other. And I said, why don't you, Alex, talk to Mayor Tratnik in Rivne, and I will talk to Mayor Brad Cohen. So that weekend, we both spoke to both the mayors. I spoke to my friend Brad, and he said, let me think about it and talk. Let me think it over. And then Monday morning, he calls me. I think it's a great idea. Let's get it done. And so we both arranged a meeting, and we had a Zoom meeting between the two cities. And I'm going to call up my friend Mayor Cohen to come up and explain the vision we're going to have. Because one of the visions we have is, this was actually a 3-week program that Alex put together, but we want to keep this going every week. We would like to see a container sent out every week. And we are right now in the process of talking to so many people, not just in these towns, but all across New Jersey, the different groups, to bring them here to Lighthouse Fellowship and have them deliver the goods so they can go out. So I'd like to introduce Brad to come up here, my friend, Mayor Cohen. He's going to explain how we're going to take it forward.
Before I get to the relationship that we're starting to develop with Rivne, which is exciting, I know that today we're all Ukrainian, right?
Yes.
And while I was never born in Ukraine, I do actually have a relationship with Ukraine. My father-in-law, who unfortunately passed away in June, was born in a city similarly sized to East Brunswick at the base of the Carpathian Mountains, and unfortunately was swept up in the last major conflict in Europe and was the victim of a concentration camp, and lost his family, his home, and left a broken man, a man who had thought God left him, and came to this country to start over again. Now, we all know that Europe did end up being won by the Allied forces, and they did heal. And he too came to this country and healed as well, and had his new family, and the family grew, and that's my family. That little city at the base of the Carpathian Mountains, when he was born, was part of Czechoslovakia. In the 30s, it became part of the Austro-Hungarian Empire, and then after World War II, it was part of the USSR. In 1989, that same spot of land still sits at the base of the Carpathian Mountains. It's known as Mukachevo, Ukraine. So we're all Ukrainian.
Come on.
Our conversation with Rivne was the idea of creating a sister city relationship. Right now, obviously, the country is in a tremendous amount of need, and we're here to try to support them to the best that we possibly can. East Brunswick already has sister city relationship in China. We're working on one in Israel right now. But this one obviously comes at a time of need. Our goal is to raise as much as possible from all of your donations to use this church as a ground for all of Central Jersey to be able to donate. And Rivne itself has about 4 or 5 different sister cities in Poland, which, as you know, before World War II, Rivne was actually part of Poland. Those relationships still exist. Our goal would be to take anything that comes out of this church that comes from as wide of an area as we can get in Central Jersey and bring it to any one of those, send it to any one of those 4 Polish cities for them to in turn bring it to Rivne. Rivne, as many of you may know right now, sits at the northwest corner, so to speak, of Ukraine. And while we were talking to the mayor there, it turns out that they actually haven't seen a net loss of people in Rivne. While there are people who've gone to war, many who have left for neighboring countries, but right now that happens to be because of its location, an area that a lot of people who are refugees and leaving different parts of Ukraine are actually ending up in Rivne, whether they stay there or whether they are using that as a safe passage to Poland. But the net effect in Rivne right now is that their population has gone up. And so we really need to help the refugees that are there, the people in Rivne that are still bravely staying there, and using that city to get supplies out to the rest of Ukraine. Our goal at the end is hopefully we end up with a peaceful solution and the country goes back to the sovereign country that it was before, and that our sister city relationship can evolve into something where we exchange far more than humanitarian aid, but actual cultural art, business, commerce, and have an exchange that goes on for life, knowing that while we help them in their time of need, it's a reciprocal relationship, and that would work both ways, that if we ever needed them, they would be there for us as well. So I hope that you spread that word, get that out, and we'll do the best that we can to try to make this sister city work and to get to the people of Ukraine the things that they desperately need right now. So thank you.
So much for that opportunity for Rivne and Alex Tretyak to be connected to the city. And thank you so much for knowing the history. I don't think a lot of Ukrainians know so much as you do. But next song I want to do is, Bria, you mentioned you're like this crazy American girl, but you know what I think? When you first came out of this Voice of Ukraine, Голос країни, Voice of Country, on a big stage in Ukraine is a big deal. It's not that big as here in America, but in Ukraine it's big. Because if you're a Christian and if you're out somewhere higher than a regular or a normal person, this is a very, very special moment, and very special. So Bria became one of the stars. Not only for Ukrainians, but second, she's fluent in English, as Pastor Ivan said, and this is so amazing. She's been an example to a lot of even Ukrainians that don't speak so good Ukrainian as she. So thank you. You're not that crazy American girl. But now I want to do this song, and it's a very special one. This song takes roots back probably hundreds and hundreds of years ago, and it speaks about mothers. It speaks about children. It speaks about sons who are away from their homes, sons who are away from their mothers. And this is exactly what is happening now with most of the Ukrainian children, as we already heard today, is over 50%. And this is not it. It's every day we are getting more and more children being evacuated from the eastern part of Ukraine. And some of them leave Ukraine, some of them go to the territories like Rivne, like Lviv, and other western cities. So this is a very special song, and I want to dedicate it to all the mothers. I want to dedicate it to all children, and I also want to dedicate it to my mom, who is here, and God has amazingly and miraculously brought us here so all my family could be reunited just a couple of months ago to US. So I'm so grateful to God for that. Чорнобривці не сіяла мати у своїм світанковім краю, та навчила веснянки співати про квітучу надію мою. Як на ті чорнобривці погляну, бачу матір стареньку, бачу руки твої, моя мамо, твою ласку я чую, рідненька. Розлуки і зустрічі знаю, бачив я у чужій стороні чорнобривці із чужого краю, що насіяла ти навесні. Як на ті чорнобривці погляну, бачу матір стареньку, бачу руки твої, моя мамо, чую ласку я твою, рідненька. Як на ті чорнобривці погляну, бачу матір стареньку, бачу руки твої, моя мамо, чую ласку я твою, рідненька. Прилітають до нашого поля із далеких країв журавлі, розквітають і квіти доля
висохла криниця у мами біля хати, звідки пили воду, як були малі. Дивиться на небо стара сива мати, там летять додому сірі журавлі. Дивиться на небо стара сива мати, там летять додому сірі журавлі. Не журися, рідна, прилечу до тебе, джерело розчищу, квітні напою, бо ніколи в світі забувать не треба мамину криницю в рідному краю. Бо ніколи в світі забувать не треба мамину криницю в рідному краю. Журавлиний клекіт лине над садами, кучеряві вишні, голуба вода. Коли діти вдома, видається мамі, що прийшли до неї молоді літа. Коли діти вдома, видається мамі, що прийшли до неї молоді літа. Не журися, рідна, прилечу до тебе, джерело розчищу, вишні напою, бо ніколи в світі забувать не треба мамину криницю в рідному краю. Бо ніколи в світі забувать не треба мамину криницю в рідному краю. Не журися, рідна, прилечу до тебе, джерело розчищу, вишні напою, бо ніколи в світі забувать не треба мамину криницю в рідному краю. Бо ніколи в світі забувать не треба мамину криницю в рідному краю.
Our prayer today. I know this is your prayer today, and truly we know that He ultimately holds everything in His control, not any man or ruler, and we are grateful for that.
добра новина для тебе є. Сам Господь і творець усього на твоїй стороні.
Більше сонця зорі і яскравих зірок, твою душу оцінює добрий Бог. Заплатив на хресті, показав це тобі і мені. Тільки Ісус може диво зробити, серце від болю може зцілити, знову міцною зробити родину, може з руїни підняти країну. Солос Христос, сола грація, тільки в Христі і Його благодаті, щастя правдиве і щиру любов може мати.
Якщо хочеш змінити країну свою, тоді просто люби власну сім'ю. Добре знай дітей і батьків, як Ісус заповів.
Тільки Бог є світло, без нього пітьма, бо іншого шляху до щастя нема. Вічно Бога любити, як Він, усім людям служити.
Тільки Ісус може диво зробити, серце від болю може зцілити, знову міцною зробити родину, може з руїни підняти країну. Солос Христос, сола грація, тільки в Христі і в Його благодаті, щастя правдиве і щиру любов може мати. Бог став людиною і жив поміж нами, щоб нас назвати своїми синами. І добра новина є для мене й для тебе, Бог повернув для нас втрачене небо.
Тільки Ісус може диво зробити, серце від болю може зцілити, знову і знову зробити родину, може з руїни підняти країну. Солос Христос, сола грація, тільки в Христі і в Його благодаті, щастя правдиве і щиру любов може мати.
Солос Христос, сола грація, тільки в Христі і в Його благодаті, щастя правдиве і щиру любов може мати.
Я, як і інші мільйони українців, 24 лютого став волонтером. Кожен із нас об'єднався для того, щоб допомогти для України та українців пережити цю біду, яка навалилася на нашу Україну. Кожен з нас обрав якийсь напрям, в чому ми можемо допомагати, в чому
Микола, і я волонтер.
Мене звати Юля, я медик-волонтер.
Мене звати Алім, я волонтер.
Мене звати Тетяна, я медичний волонтер.
Мене звати Артем, я волонтер.
Я Дар'я, я студент-медик, а зараз медик-волонтер.
Мене звати Олександр, я лікар з медицини невідкладних станів. Разом з командою волонтерів ми працюємо в міжнародному гуманітарному хабі міста Рівне. Щодня ми відправляємо багато ліків і виробів медичного призначення у регіони України, які найбільше цього потребують. В Україну прийшла війна, на жаль. Але, на щастя, в Україну прийшли і ви. Прийшла ваша допомога, прийшла ваша підтримка. Наше завдання – максимально ефективно розподілити і використати ті ресурси, які ми маємо на сьогоднішній день, завдяки, в тому числі, і вам. Дякуємо, що ви разом з нами. Дякуємо за вашу щедрість і щирість.
Також ми допомагаємо дизелем, заправляємо машини, які із нашого гуманітарного хабу відправляються в гарячі точки України. Ми допомагаємо чим можемо і за це дякуємо вам.
Вітаю, друзі! Я Олександр Третяк, міський голова Рівного. Щиро дякую вам, всім людям доброї волі, за надзвичайно активну підтримку України в цей нелегкий час, і, зокрема, нашого міста Рівне, котре, маючи служіння гуманітарного хабу, здійснює направлення вантажів в ті точки та зони, де є гостра необхідність у продуктах харчування, у життєзабезпеченні цілих міст. Неймовірно велику роботу і справу ви робите, підтримуючи Україну в цей час надзвичайно великої потреби. Війна забирає життя багатьох людей, рідних та близьких, але ми продовжуємо служити. Тож дякую вам, хай вас Бог благословить за вашу невтомну працю і служіння.
And what was being said in that video is "дякую." That means thank you in Ukrainian. I think it was said about 1 million times in that video. And from myself, from Jess, from all of us here, thank you so much, everyone who's given $1, who's hung a Ukrainian flag or worn a Ukrainian piece of clothing or anything just to show your support for Ukraine. You're amazing. Thank you.
Просто тобі хочу сказати дякую за те, що ти зі мною назавжди. Дякую. Ти сонце, ти